You are listening to the Blueprints Brocast with Jay Cruz
and Austyn Tokar. Hey, what if we change the intro?
to what?
Welcome to Blueprints Brocast. That's it.
Okay. Well, we could do that. I can make that, but then I can make that.
I mean, we could try it. It's like,
Well, we're already trying now.
yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying.
We're
We
in.
could try it.
We're going.
Oh, we're going right now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You better start that time with me.
Oh, ready? Okay.
Right, so how are you feeling?
I am feeling pretty good. I think right up to the last week of the cut or the bulking time.
Yeah.
I think the motivation was like not dwindling like totally, but that was my last week of like just like my motivation was just like, what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah.
I think partially it's because I didn't have food. Like I was supposed to be. I feel like.
So you weren't eating?
Well, no. So here's the thing. You know how you feel like you have a goal or expectation for yourself that you're not meeting, like, and I'm over here, I'm doing the work, but I'm not fueling it. So it's almost like, you know how I was watching this video and this girl, she was the first girl that ever did like, the youngest girl ever to go to every single country in the entire world under 18. Well, now she's trying to go I saw that. You saw it?
Yeah.
Okay. She's trying to do like intercontinental something or other in an electric vehicle now, right?
Yeah.
So she can only charge at certain stations.
Yeah.
And she was stressing out because the gauge says one thing, and she's like, "Oh, that says 40 miles less than I'm gonna make."
Yeah.
But if you're going downhill, it recharges, right? So there's a way to get more energy.
Yeah.
I feel like that when I'm working out, where I'm like, man, I'm working out, but I don't have enough energy to get to where I'm going. And so that's what made like me feel like unmotivated, because I'm like, I'm not doing what I need to do in terms of eating. And it's just, I just didn't have protein. So in terms of carbs, dude, there's carbs all over the place. I ate that all day. Fat, I stayed right where I'm supposed to be. I don't like to go crazy with that. But like protein, I was probably like 29, 30 grams low. It's not like the end of the world, but still it was demotivating because I didn't get my full fuel in.
Yeah, I think it can be very unmotivating because you basically lower the standard at which you hold yourself, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to hit this every day. I want to make sure I do everything on point. And once you start letting go a little bit, sometimes that turns into a lot of it, right? But I think you're at that point where you're just kind of like, I'll get it. Maybe I'll hit 100%. Maybe I'll be all right with it. When you start thinking about it throughout the day, you're like, dang. Yeah, I should have been hitting it. So I mean, that's with everything. But in that situation, in reality, it's not a big deal. Like missing by 20, 30 grams, not a big deal. But in your head, it's kind of like, shoot, I could have just done that. I could have just had this protein shake. I could have just had some chicken breast, whatever, and I would have just hit my numbers.
It's funny because the other day, sometimes I have my protein shake at night because I'm like, I got to fill the rest of my macros out. I came in the morning, I sat down at my desk, and my protein shake was on the desk. I was like, what is this doing here? Let me go put it away. I picked it up to go put it away. It was full. Damn. And I was like, oh, I got to take some protein off because I didn't drink it. And it was the previous days, like at night. And I was like, dang it. And I didn't drink it. So that was the first time that's ever happened. But still, that was frustrating. Like that was the week. That was like 2 days right after I had sent you the update and was already telling you like, hey, man, I'm like down on protein.
Yeah.
And then I planned it and I still miss it. It's just like,
and soon you're going to be like, damn, I wish I had more food. I wish I had more protein.
I'm already there.
Yeah.
So this week, every other time up until this point, I'm like, oh man, I have like 300 more calories I have to eat. Like, what am I going to eat? I don't feel like eating. This week already, I'm like, man, it'd been nice to have that 300 calories.
Yeah, you never miss it until it's gone,
Yeah. Well, also adding activity. So just adding 2,000 steps for the cut. So just to clue you guys in or to let you guys know, I've been starting the cut. It's been a week, almost a week already. Actually, it'll be a week in like a couple days. So it's only been 5 days.
I mean, is it even 5 days? Did you start on Valentine's Day or did you start?
I started on Thursday.
Yeah. So the day after.
This is the fourth day.
Yeah, fourth day.
And I'm already like, I'm not dying. I'm not like, oh, I wish I had all this food. But the 2,000 steps a day extra has like, has me wanting more food, just that. Yeah. And then the mentality of like just having to stay locked in and like doing all the reps and doing all the work. I'm representing myself, but I'm also representing Austyn. So like I have a lot on the line to that's wagered basically, and I can't fail. So it's it's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, when you have that nice little drop off, I always like to pull from not only calories, but I like to push up, macros, but I like to push up on cardio a little bit to activity levels. I don't like to just do one end of the spectrum or the other, unless it impacts our lifestyle. You know, if you're a person who sits at the desk all day and we just can't get away and we're just barely hitting our steps and whatever cardio is prescribed barely, then we probably just take away food. In Jay's situation, we're able to have that opportunity to add more cardio in there. And for his cardio, it's just steps, right? And take away food. So the culmination of both really mentally kind of helps, but then you're also kind of like, yeah, man, I'm feeling those effects.
Yeah, I feel the effects, but I also felt like, I think it was this morning, I got up and only 3 days of doing what I've been doing, my stomach was already felt like way flatter. Like it wasn't like, I don't know. So I have this condition, it's called pectus. Man, I'm not sure what the exact word is for it, but it's a condition where your chest basically goes inward. I could look it up. I'll put it on the screen here for you.
You keep talking out.
Okay, it's pectus something or other, pectus arrendum or something like some. Anyways, so for me, like when I was younger, when I first started working out, like I really concentrated on my chest because it was, it was caved in. So I had to build my chest up so much to try and just counterbalance or fix the defect, like do what I could do physically without getting surgery to fix it. And if it affects your actual heart or affects your breathing, some people do get surgery for it, but mine wasn't that extreme. And so for me, my stomach, in order for my stomach not to look like it's, descended, because it will, even no matter how big my chest got, I had to work so much harder on my chest. So that's been one of the points for me, I don't skip bench. I don't skip pressing movements because I have to keep my chest as big as possible to keep my stomach looking as flat as possible. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you find it?
Yeah. Pectus excavatum.
Excavatum.
I don't know. I always put a spin on things. Too.
Yeah. So I passed it down to Corbin. Corbin has it as well. So
wait, hold on. It says you're a child in here.
It says I'm a child.
It says in which a child's breastbone and some ribs grow inward.
Well, that's when they first born. You don't get it all of a sudden when you're an adult.
I didn't say you were. It's just the internet. Google said they didn't specify that you can have it as adults. They said hey, it's a child.
No, that's what they're saying. So I think it attributes. I want to say that I'm not good at cardio. I always want to say oh, that's what keeps me from doing it. But I know there's a lot of people in my life where I'm oh, why do you have these excuses? Don't come up with excuses. There's ways to do better. And for me, I can do better at cardio, but I use it as my excuse because I honestly cannot expand my lungs past a certain point. And even when singing, I sing all the time, but when I do sing, I run out of breath real quick.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has so much to do with cardio, but I have noticed it's funny. I don't know. People think of walking as cardio, but I have noticed that much cardio has affected my leg days. So my leg days now, since the beginning, I last longer. I can lift more without getting super winded. I get winded still. I mean, leg days, that's what they do to you. But even just that little bit of cardio has helped tremendously when lifting. So it's just weird how the little things stack up. And then the other thing is that people do when they get to my point that I'm at right now, or even halfway into a cut. Oh, I'm looking good. I can, slack off just a little here and there. I'm looking good. Or even people that are on a weight loss journey, oh man, I'm fitting into, size. I don't know. For guys, oh, I'm not in 38s anymore. I'm in 34s. Yeah. Man, I'm good. And then you oh, I'm gonna treat myself and start eating, large pizza or whatever. So
I think everyone does that at any level, unless you're extremely, extremely disciplined, right? You let go just a little bit, and then it just goes downhill from there. You say, I've hit that point. Once you start saying I hit that point, you start regressing. Because there is never a point, right? There's always something more, and you're once you already said it for yourself, you're kind of ooh, I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that.
What things do you recommend people on their cut? Because for me, you trust me a lot, and you're just hey, just take out basically 90 grams of carbs
Yeah.
and just do your thing. So what is it that you usually advise your clients and your best advice to them to stay with it?
Yeah, generally, it depends on what the client wants. If they want a meal plan, I'll make a meal plan. I'll work with somebody on that, make sure everything's covered on there. But if the client feels good, I have them just count their own calories and macros. That's what Jay is doing right now. And for the most part, people get it right. But there are some instances where, you know, things are swaying in a different direction where I'm like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Let's check things. Are you doing your cardio? Are you hitting your steps? Are you training hard? You know, are you hitting your food? And usually they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, all right, well, this week I want you to send me pictures of your food and I want you to send me every single meal you're having. Right. And then I'm like, bro, that's not 100 calories. Bro, let me see that nutritional label right there. Hey, there's like 10 extra carbs in that thing that you didn't know about. So things like that you just miss. So
Yeah.
that's important to note. If you are tracking your macros and you're just not losing weight, you know, you got to be more detailed oriented. Now, for people, it literally doesn't matter what you eat to an extent. I've seen people have a trash food diet and they've gotten lean. You know, you can eat McDonald's and get lean. It's very possible. You remember what is his name? Timberwolf or
Oh yeah.
Simba Kane, I think his name is.
Yeah.
That guy, ramen soup, Pop-Tarts, everything like that. I got to eat that every day, and he's shredded year round. It's insane to me. That's when I first knew. I was like, okay, it's very possible to eat garbage and be shredded.
Yeah.
But is that good for you? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, you probably should be covering your fiber bases and making sure you have a good balance of carbs to fat and make sure protein's on the high end. Like, you can be lean, but like, are you healthy internally? I think that's important to note there. Are you getting your micronutrient profile? You know, you could supplement it, but I mean, how much easier is it to just eat the food and have that on a consistent basis rather than go out and buying, well, easier on your bank account anyway.
Yeah.
Go out and buying a bunch of supplements to feed your micronutrients, your minerals, vitamins, all that.
Are there any specific foods that you recommend, you know, your people to stay away from during a cut? Because I know, like, for me, certain foods do bloat me. If I have any kind of like cheese or things like that, like, I just get bloated. Is there like a common food to like all people that like, hey, you should probably stay away from this, especially when it comes down to like right before like a show?
Yeah.
Hey, you're gonna look, you know, you're not gonna look how you want to look. You're not gonna look lean if you eat these types of foods. Any of those on your top of your mind right now?
Yeah, generally the rule of thumb is keep it as simple as possible. You know, single ingredient foods, probably the best option you can have. Now, with that being said, there are still foods that don't digest well for people. Some things could be very high in fiber, like oatmeal, whole wheat breads, even for some people. Like, if I have oatmeal, I don't know what it is about it, but I just do not digest it well. I start bloating, I get gassy, you know, I get the runs after I have oatmeal. So other people, they have no issue with it, right? They're eating it on a daily basis. You're totally fine having oatmeal. So I supplement that out with something like cream of rice or cream of wheat. I'm good at that point. So it's really up to the individual itself. So I can say you can have this, you can have that, but if you're not digesting it well, there's no point. And what we mainly want to pay attention to is to keep things on course. If you're having bloating issues, gassiness, indigestion, burping, all these other problems consistently, you're probably not going to feel good. You're probably going to have a drop in energy throughout the day. Bad workouts, things like that will start happening over time. They'll curate over time. And our main objective is to keep things as, you know, straight on point as possible. So no one wants to deal with that. We just got to make sure that the food you eat is digesting well. Generally, like I said, single ingredient items. So white rice, meats. I guess, like I said, any rice-based items. Like
what about rice noodles?
Yeah, rice noodles. It's I forget, they add something on it to make it a little bit more windy. I don't know what it is, but generally it's totally fine for people.
Because the reason why I ask is because out here, well, back in Manteca, there's these spots that had, you know, pho, and it's like, ooh, that's like I love
they got
that.
other things in pho that are like, hey.
I know, but like, dude, so we went to this place called Union Grove here, and they had a Vietnamese spot, so I got it, and I looked at the macros of it in general, because it's just rice noodles and steak. That's pretty much all
Yeah,
it
the
is.
broth is pretty lean in it, but there are some options on there that they add different things in there that are just like, I can't really track that. Oh, very salty, high in sodium.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure going to happen. You just know you'll be a little bit inflamed after, but it's totally fine.
Dude, so I had some a couple days ago because the macros are like, oh yes, these are good, but like I want to eat that all the time. Like that's just like I would if I could. But it's expensive, man. I'm in California. You could get a large bowl for like $7, and that
whoa. When though?
That was like 2 years ago. Is it changed? I'll
Inflation.
No, not that much. Well, this is at like a specialty place where there's like a lot of different restaurants inside of one place, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want. And in general, their prices are a little bit higher because of the convenience. Like you can take your whole family there. Everybody can eat at a different restaurant.
I mean, if you try to make ramen, pho, pad thai, any of those things by yourself, it ends up being way more expensive than just going there and getting it. So you might as well.
So here's the thing, though. This is what I was thinking. They have the, like the instant noodles. They have pho, like that, and then it's just the noodles. That's it, noodles and broth, and then I can add whatever veggies and steak and whatever else to that to make it like, on the healthy side. I'd have to actually look at the label at it, but last time I had it, and I know a lot of people that are Vietnamese would probably get offended, like, oh, why are you doing that? But it was legit. It tasted very similar. It was close enough to me to where I was like, I can eat this. And those are like $3.
I mean, I've done it before, like rice noodles, bone broth mixed with some sort of seasoning in there as well. Like I used to use the ramen noodle seasoning, whatever, put that in bone broth, a little bit of water too, the rice noodles and whatever meat I wanted to put in there. It ends up tasting good. You put green onion sprouts in there. It's a good dish. When I had SIBO, I had to drop everything, make sure it was all very easily digestible food. So I had crackers, rice when I was able to, rice noodles.
SIBO? What's SIBO? You had SIBO? What's SIBO?
SIBO? We'll just go with the definition, because I don't want to say anything that's like, oh, that's not part of SIBO. Like,
we got all these terms today that we don't know nothing about.
Right. Well, moreover, I just want to talk about what happens when you have it here. So, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, defined by the presence of excessive bacteria in the small intestine. So usually you're going to have to work something out of your system during that time, right? So they're basically going to feed on whatever's in your system for a period of time, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're having junk food, that just makes it more palatable for them to like go over and eat everything that's in there. And they're going to stay in there. They're going to keep growing. So you basically want to drown out that bacteria over a period of time. Like fasting, I've done fasting for that. It helps. So I can completely kill it all. It still takes a long time, but you do have to lower the types of foods that you were eating at that time in there during it. So I was having, when I was having 6,000 calories a day? You can't get 6,000 calories a day without having garbage food, right?
Oh yeah.
You keep on feeding the overgrowth, that bad bacteria in there. So I had to pull back completely. I lost like maybe 15 pounds at that time. A lot of it's water weight, glycogen store and all that stuff. But that took a while. But through that, I was able to find out I can have rice noodles, bone broth, and some rum noodle packets. And I was like, this is pretty stinking good. And I kept it in my diet for like 3 weeks at least.
Yeah, that's what I found. As long as I have it around, like the good food around, and it's like I pre-cook a lot of it, and then I can just measure it afterwards. I don't like to make like individual like Tupperware containers of food. I feel like that's too much work, and plus my kids will just like dip into one of those things, and I'm like, what was that? So I'd rather just make a big batch of just meat and then measure it out. And I know you had somebody ask what's easier to do, or you had a post actually, and you talked about, is it easier to measure your food dry or cooked, or pre-cooked or cooked?
Yeah, the client asked that one, and well, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. What was the answer?
Yeah,
you're the professional.
I mean, in all honesty, it's always easier to do it dry. The less variables there are, the better it is, the easier it is to track. So a lot of people have different opinions on meat, whether it's easier to weigh dry or raw, because there's a lot of variables that come into it. So companies will spike their meats with extra water, and then I forget what the actual stuff is called, but they'll put some sort of ingredient in it so that it retains the water over time. So when you're getting 6 pounds of chicken from the grocery store, in reality it's probably like 4.5, maybe 5 pounds.
The
a lot
heck?
of it's water weight. Yeah. So if you cook chicken for a long time, you'll notice it dries out a lot. It'll lose a bunch of extra water in there. The problem with weighing it dry is that to get the accurate assessment of it, you would have to cook it, near bone dry, which no one's gonna eat. So what's the point, right? It's gross.
Yeah.
So it's you got to face reality, like be objective about it. I'm not gonna eat it if it's that dry. So might as well just weigh it raw. And then if you can, at all possible, get it from some sort of local butcher, because they're not going to do that to your food.
What I found recently is just searing your meat and just, locking in the moisture and then all the juiciness and then just cooking it in the oven the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Man, it makes pretty much any meat, chicken, steak, whatever it is, it makes it just perfect. So that's the way that we've been cooking it.
And yeah, to clarify, you can weigh your meats cooked. Like if you're consistent at doing it and you've been doing it for a while, that's totally fine. Like it's much easier when you're meal prepping to weigh it cooked. You're not going to want to weigh everything raw all the time. You're not going to have that opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
But we're just talking about accuracy here. It's just easier to do it raw.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the biggest tip for me, like especially just, it doesn't matter whether it's a bulk or cut, anything, when you want to get your diet right, you just have to have the food available. Because otherwise, if you don't have the food available, you're not going to just go to where you need to go to get the food. You're going to eat what's on hand at that moment.
Yeah.
And what's on hand sometimes, like, because of my kids, they're not on any specific diet necessarily. And like my son, Corbin, he'll, see a DiGiorno. He's like, "Oh, Dad, you want a DiGiorno?" And I'm like, I really don't want to cook food right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and cook me the DiGiorno. But I said, hey, but you gotta put like 7 ounces of pizza of chicken on half of it, so like I get the protein in. But then, again, with balancing your macros, now that just shot the rest of my day. So like now I'm just eating protein the rest of the day. Like I ate my carbs all in one sitting,
I can tell you an example from this past week. Faith works at a restaurant in downtown Austin, and the head chef asked me to bake him a carrot cake, right? So he's like, "Oh, I love carrot cake, man. I've seen your baking. Let me try some carrot cake." And I was like, "All right." So I made some carrot cake. And, Faith brought it to work. He happened to have COVID and he wasn't even there. So she brought it back home and it's sitting in the fridge. And I'm like, dang, I'll have a little piece, right? Just because I wanted to, have what I made, right? So the next day, we're running low on proteins and I didn't go to the store. And I was like, oh, okay, so there's some uncooked chicken breasts in there. But there's also just carrot cakes in there too. The carrot cake. Yeah. So then I went to bed after. Dang. So it's ease of access. If the food's readily available for you, especially garbage food, you're gonna eat it, right? If I have to cook the chicken breast, I'm like, shoot, I don't feel like it. Right? You're gonna probably choose the garbage item.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm gonna be successful because I know what I need to do, and I still feel like what I started at was like a lot. I don't know whether we're gonna be cutting back even more as the days come closer. I feel like I'm doing okay, but I know I just had to set myself and be in the mentality of like, hey, this is what I have to do because it's what I got to do.
Yeah.
There is no like, well, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not actually doing a show. No, like I said that I'm gonna do something, and I said like this is one of the things that I said. I think it was either on this podcast or I said it in like a men's group I'm in. But I want to let my yes be yes and my no be no. So if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it, and I don't need to sign any contracts for anything. I don't need to none of that stuff to do any, like, just all of life. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a business deal or any of that kind of stuff. The only reason why we ended up, people ended up creating contracts and all these things because too many dishonest people out there. Yeah. But if you're a man in your word, you just say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, and you go out and do it. So
just to add something in there, I was looking at TikTok, and this guy was talking about his time in Tokyo and some weird, funky things he did in there. There's several shops in Tokyo that they have a center where you basically sign a contract where you have to complete some sort of workload, whatever it is, puzzle piece, whatever. And you sign it, and they keep you accountable to do it, and you can't leave until you finish it.
That's awesome.
Part of me that gives me part anxiety, but then it's like, oh, that's cool too. But I'm like, what if it's something I just really can't complete?
Yeah.
But you get like an hour total, I guess, but you can't leave until you finish it.
I watched a video where these two girls were putting a puzzle together, and she's recording like the last 3 pieces, and the girl's about to put the last piece in, and she throws the whole puzzle onto the ground.
It's horrible.
And the girl's just like sitting there like really?
Dang. Horrible.
But yeah, so I look forward to success, and you guys can watch on my actual YouTube channel. I'll post some updates on there on how I'm doing, and I'll post some more workouts on there too, because I just need to post more workouts.